Hello, Amichai. Thank you very much for your time. So let me start by asking you why you consider international regulatory cooperation important today.
We are living, so first, thank you for this meeting and interview. But considering your question, we are living in a very global world. And in a very global world, we all the time have reallocation of products and manufacturers, and every country build strengths and want to be much more competitive and to gain as much as the country can gain from opening. And when it comes specifically to Israel, which is quite small country, depend in few areas a lot on import. We are very, for us, it's very important to have a very good international regulation cooperation that will be good and will make Israel easy to import, easy to export, and not only from perspective of import and export, but also from internal regulation. Since we are quite small country, we can learn from other big countries, big trade areas like the EU and others. So we don't need to reinvent our regulatory system and can learn and in some cases even embrace to our system other regulatory regime and principles in different areas. So for us, it's very important and very fruitful to implement international regulatory cooperation in our policy.
Thank you for that. And in your experience, how has Israel been kind of approaching IRC, international regulatory cooperation, and what priorities do you still believe there are to overcome to improve IRC in the future?
In the last few years, Israel has embraced a very wide policy of international regulatory cooperation. In the past, if I will give an example of technical standards of products, in the past, a lot of our regulatory standard of product was quite unique to Israel. And in the last few years, we have made great change to change all our product standards to international. So they will not be a barrier trade, which of course lead to cost of living and less of product on market. And we want to open our product regulation system to international, and we even put it in the law a few years ago that every product, every regulation of product needs to be as is in other countries, our common and main trade countries, so we can bring to Israel quite easily. This is one example where we did a great change in a lot of products. And if we want to do some kind of national deviation in our products, there need to be they need to be improved by Prime Minister himself. That's how we strengthen this policy. And in products, it was very strong embedded, but it's also in all other policies. Doing international comparison is a basic and fundamental request when we do RIA, regulatory impact assessment. We expect every regulator, when he promotes new regulation, to be based on what other countries are doing, and to try as much as he can to learn and to embed the same regulation, and not to invent new kind of regulation unless there are unique circumstances in Israel that justify it. Nowadays, we in front of the new government, we want to have a new law of regulation, and this is one of the leading principles, to be as much international as we can. So it's a worldwide, not worldwide, Israel-wide policy to follow international regulatory cooperation, and to open our market and to make our regulation as much the same as it can in other countries.
Very interesting. Thank you, Amichai. And how do you think that international regulatory cooperation best practice principles, these best practice principles adopted by the OECD Regulatory Policy Committee this year, can help Israel go further, go a step further, and still increase the international aspect in Europe?
A lot of what we are doing in regulatory policy in Israel is based on our membership, on our knowledge, and our commitment to the OECD. In the field of, in general, regulatory policy, and in specific fields of regulation in environment, safety in other countries, we are learning and gain a lot of knowledge from the OECD. So the IRC principle is giving us a very strong framework and very strong knowledge and direction to implement those principles in our system. And it's helped us even in our internal discussion, when regulator want to justify their specific regulation, which is a little bit or completely different from other countries, we can use those principles and to encourage our system to overcome very natural fears, to let free of our unique system and to be open to learn from others. So for us, it's very helpful and give us a good background and incentive to move farther from where we are now.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much for your time today, and speak to you soon.